Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to episode 12 of My Adventures in Role-Playing. My name is Trevor Chapman. I've been gaming for 40 years in various versions of Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games. And today I have a topic that is more viewpoint, a little bit of a rant, and maybe some unwarranted advice. So, as we all know, we have been in gaming groups where there was a problematic player, somebody who didn't fit with the group, somebody who was unnecessarily disruptive to the group, tried to overtake and overpower things or drive things in their own personal direction, or just circumstances where the group fell apart. Now, when I was a kid, what was the solution to deal with this? Well, you just tell Bob we're not playing anymore and Bob will go away. And as a child, as a teenager, that is a perfectly valid choice because you're immature and an asshole. As you get older, you realize that sometimes you just have to be not confrontational, but willing to at least explain to the person the situation and your concerns. So when I was a teenager, there was several people who, when we gamed, we would just tell them we weren't gaming or we were playing something they didn't like to play or whatever, and then eventually they would just, drift away. It's happened several times. But once I got to be 20s, 30s, I didn't like that approach. I thought it was cowardly. I thought it didn't have appropriate propriety. So there was a couple of times where I was with a group and they literally did that. They basically just ghosted, for lack of a better phrase, the poor individual, and they figured they solved the problem. And I'm like, well, you're not really helping them. You're helping yourself. You're being unbelievably selfish, but you're not helping them. You're not letting them know that, hey, there's a problem here and you don't fit, and here's where our concerns are. So fast forward a couple of years, and I have a gaming group, and I have a member of that group that is very disruptive, manipulative, likes to grab the center stage as much as possible, and is causing everybody else to literally consider leaving the table. So I, being the storyteller, and I being the person who decided that this is the way it should be done, I called the guy up and I had a frank conversation with him, and yeah, it worked out as far as he wasn't at our table anymore. Of course, we don't talk to him anymore. He's basically, gone wherever he went. It seemed to be that telling him that honest truth, broke whatever friendship we had. But it's better to be honest with someone and not their friend than to be dishonest and be an illusory friend. So I think that's a hard and true lesson. So it's really, it sucks, but the right thing to do is to approach the person in a safe space, in a safe manner, and say, hey, the group is having concerns and we need to consider options. Now, the easiest option is you bounce them out of the group, right? That is partially dependent upon how disruptive they are to the party. It is also dependent upon whether you mentioned your frustrations before. You can't just toss somebody without any sort of precursor. You need to have same idea as work, right? 3 strikes and you're out. So, the first one, here's your warning. Second one, here's a firmer warning. Third one, there's the door. Like it almost like you have to have that kind of an approach to things. Now, to go along with that is the idea of when you add someone to the group, sometimes you have to give them the benefit of the doubt and don't be too quickly judgmental. There was one gaming group I gamed with that twice I considered to be unnecessarily judgmental. The one instance was the one guy kept talking about this guy that he knew at work who apparently was like a gamer, had a great imagination, had a wonderful storyteller, and all this stuff, but he happened to be 300 pounds. And they didn't want him at the table because they would feel uncomfortable with someone who's that grossly overweight. Fortunately, I left the group before I crossed the 300-pound threshold because at the time that they were having this conversation, I'm like, you do realize I'm like 270, right, guys? Like, I'm not going to be here much longer if, age catches up to me. So that to me was someone who was being too quick to judge for clearly a superficial reason. The other one was we brought a new person to the table and they decided to play a dwarf. And they were a dwarven paladin. I was a dwarven cleric. We're in a dwarven stronghold. There's some ceremony that needs to happen. So the two dwarves are working on the dwarvish ceremony. The human bard decides to try to interject, and we're like, no, we got this. This is a dwarven thing. Let's let us do this. And at the end of the night, they basically berated the guy for not playing a dwarf properly and somehow doing this and this and this. It's like, holy crap. Clearly, the host of the game, the human bard, wanted the spotlight, and we didn't give it to him, and he got very pissed. Now, of course, the guy who'd been there his first night playing his character, and at the end of the night, they're like, "Oh no, you don't know what you're doing. You don't really know how to play a dwarf now, do you?" And it's like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, so he left, and we never heard from him again. And that's the best thing that guy ever did, in my opinion. Like, if you go to a gaming group and they berate you in the first night and question your abilities or your decisions, well, no, I'm not sticking around. So, fast forward to the present, and we have a different problem that's existing. Online gaming is a fucking miraculous thing that has happened to roleplay. The ability of people from all over the world to sit around a virtual table and share this amazing thing we call role-playing is unbelievable. And the fact that people today are still complaining that they can't find groups, I'm mystified by. Like, I don't think it's a problem that you can't find a group. I think it's a problem you can't find somebody to run the group. It's neither here nor there. The problem that happens is that you get situations where, well, I'll give a true example. There's a podcast to which I belong. Well, not podcast. Well, it's a streaming thing for Vampire. And most recently, there was a whole bunch of miscommunication and confusion and frustration and anger, and it led in basically the situation ending in the party that existed being gutted. Now, in and of itself, that happens. I've been playing role-playing games for 40 years. A group all of a sudden dissolving into a goo has happened for many reasons. Somebody who was essential to the game, normally the storyteller or GM, they end up having a conflict or some major life change or something that causes them to no longer be available. Nobody else steps up to the plate, group dissolves. Or you've got situations where people move, lives change, or just, something happens and there's a disruption and things just aren't working anymore. And the group just decides to go their own way. That doesn't surprise me. It doesn't bother me in the least. Where the modern problem lies is when you have people deciding that the method by which they're leaving the group is to ghost, to literally just fucking vanish and not give any preamble as to they don't want to play anymore, they're not going to be around, they're not happy, like whatever. They just literally just fucking leave. And I'm like, okay, in today's day and age where if you and I have any sort of channel of communication, email, Discord, whatever, how hard is it for you to send a one-sentence note to say, you know what, I'm not having fun anymore. I'm not liking the situation. I'm not liking where this is going, whatever. Or you're an asshole. I don't care. And send that out and then ghost. At least then you've given a confirmation that you don't want to be around. But just stonewalling any communication whatsoever, like how hard is it to, like, even I would respect you for basically saying, hey, you're an asshole and I don't want to game with you anymore because I don't like the way you play. Oh, okay, cool. I can handle that. Thank you for your forthrightness. Take care. Right? Maybe you can tell me why you think I'm an asshole, but that's your discretion. How hard is that? Just be honest, be forthright, be comfortable with the fact that, but some of today's people don't want conflict. They don't want, their agency disrupted. They don't want, there to be a messy end to things. It's like, my God, life is fucking messy. Grow up and realize that. So what happened in this particular instance is we had been recording our games and streaming them and putting them up on the internet. And we had like 7 of them in the can, ready to basically get produced. And the people left, and we put 6 of them up. Nobody said a fucking word. No comment about not happy with this or no, you shouldn't have posted that. Nothing at all. Literally radio silence. Now, the rule of thumb is silence is acquiescence. You don't say anything, I can't possibly know that there's a disruption or a problem. How can I presume that? Why would I presume? So we had this one session that one person was adamant they didn't want aired. And fine. The rest of the people are like, no, we should air this. We're airing the rest. We'll air this, and then we'll go from there. And on the night that we decided to air it, essentially the person who was running the stream was bullied, for lack of a better phrase, by all of the people who had left the group and had not said anything for 6 weeks. All of a sudden they're jumping in saying, we don't want this, and you can't use my character anymore, you can't use my name, blah, 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 blah. Like, okay. So here's the deal. One person decides that they don't want an episode aired. Other people decide that they do want it aired. Some people have given no opinion one way or the other and have removed themselves from the equation because they're not around. They're not in the forum. They're not in the Discord. They're not in any part of the conversation. They've literally removed themselves from it. This one person's opinion apparently trumps everybody else's opinion because they are adamant that they don't want it aired. And yet there is somebody else in the group who adamantly wants it aired because it was an important episode to them. And the people who are still there and have a voice are perfectly fine with airing it. Now we're in a situation where this person has said that we violated their trust for playing an episode that has annoyed them. But okay, fine, you can feel butthurt. I get that. But at the same time, why does your singular opinion override the opinion of those people that are still involved in the project? And why did you feel it necessary to enlist the aid of the people who had no longer been involved in this at all to basically jump on board and basically put the streaming host in such a state of frustration that he cancels the stream just because, oh, fuck it, it's easier to just shut this down than to do anything else? To me, that's bullying. To me, that's intimidation. To me, that is the very things that you and your cadre of people don't want. You're the people who basically say, no, we don't need, we shouldn't be like that. We should give people their agency. We should give people their opinion. We should let everyone, fuzzy, nice life, right? And it's the hypocrisy of it in the event that I completely this is a perspective of some of these people. I am completely going to stand up for the rights of every other person in this world if they are downtrodden. If you belong to a minority group, no matter how large, I'm going to be there to support your rights, and I'll punch every Nazi in the face, right? Okay. But the moment somebody who's not of a minority has an oppressive thing happen to them, you're all over it. You're like, no, yeah, let's gang pile this guy. What the fuck? How hypocritical can that be? Very, and it feels very much to me like I'm taking my toys and I'm going home, and you can't play with anything because I said so. It's like, what? So these persons are now stating you can't use my likeness, you can't use any of the characters I've created, you can't use any of the NPCs I created. And if you do, I'm going to go to whatever streaming site and I'm going to basically have you taken down. Okay. Your likeness, sure, fine. You don't want your picture up there anymore. You don't want to be associated visually with us. That's fine. That doesn't bother me in the least. Hamstringing the entire rest of the players by basically saying that any mention of your character is going to result in taking us down. What the fuck? It's a character, dude. It's part of the story. It's part of the group story. So after this, there are a few people in the group who are quite annoyed with how this went down. But I just can't believe the fact that when everything is all happy and rosy, it's all happy and rosy. And the moment that anything goes slightly against or even directly against, one person's wishes, the whole thing goes to shit. And the reason the group fell apart is because one person in the group felt that they weren't being listened to, or they weren't being properly communicated with, which was true in the fact that the person who wasn't communicating with them had stated overtly that they were not going to be able to be, in communication for a while. That person's not responding because they told you they weren't going to respond, but apparently that wasn't good enough. And that person was like, no, I don't want anything happening until this problem is fixed. And then we end up having a bunch of discussions as a group to solve the problems. I warned them, this isn't going to turn around in a minute. We're not going to be like, back to perfect like that. Clearly we got some stuff to fix. So let's work towards it. But let's realize we're going to have to take some time to work towards it. Nope. Very second that it didn't go the one direction that person presumed, they walked. They just fuck you. And, now apparently we're all anathema. And then like half the other people walked with them because either in solidarity or because, well, this is a shit show, and away they went. Well, fine. Okay. You left, and that's perfectly fine. But when you leave without any commentary other than I'm out, you forfeit any decision about what's going forward from that point. If you would have said before you walked out the door, hey, I want this, this, and this, and this, we either negotiate or whatever. But you walk out, and then for 5 or 6 weeks, you don't say fuck all about you being on camera every single fucking one of those weeks. We're streaming. None of you come up. None of you complain. None of you say a fucking word. This 1 week, somebody is been out of shape because we aired an episode they weren't happy with. And lo and behold, I got people basically saying, well, you should have asked. Why the fuck would I have asked? We agreed a long time ago everything we recorded was going to be aired. End of story. You never took that back. Why would I presume that the stuff that we had recorded was not going to get aired? Why? Why would I presume that? And why would you presume that we would acquiesce to that belief? Like, hold on a moment. You're not a paid actor or actress. There's no contract here. This is just people putting stuff together for personal enjoyment and possibly the enjoyment of the world. And you're now stating that you don't want anything of yours aired. Well, it's too fucking late. The cat's out of the bag. And when the episode's already started and we're an hour and a half into it, I'm sorry, let it fucking run. But no, you have to have your singular way. Heaven forbid the world doesn't bend to your specific wants and needs. Oh my fucking God. Doesn't bend to mine, and guess what? I'm an old grognard, so I kind of go, whatever. Life sucks, whatever. Like it's this immediate gratification and quasi selfishness that seems to exist in a percentage of the people that are out there, and I just don't get it. Life is life. And sometimes it's a piece of shit. And sometimes stuff happens you don't want to happen. And you want to exert your will on it. That's fine. You can exert your will on it. But at the same time, you can't always have it your way. Now, in a weird way, I'm saying this and I'm kind of asking for things to go my way. But you know what? I'm an adult and I recognize the fact that it's not going to go. I'm just saying this is how I would like it. If it doesn't come out that way, it doesn't come out that way. So, anyways, that's the end of my rant. But it's just the fact that when you are dealing with a group of people, especially in the internet version, because you're dealing with people that are geographically disparate and ideologically disparate and all the things that go along with that, I think we need to learn or relearn how to have adult conversations and how to be willing to debate and be willing to have a conflict that's not violent. Have a discussion where you can say, hey, things aren't going right. Let's discuss this. Let's sit down and hash out some thoughts. Like, we need to relearn the skills we've lost, because the internet is bringing us close together. No, it's not. It's driving us further apart. It's making relationships, both personal and professional, not the same. This is slightly better with a visual, but at the same time, the least amount of information that is imparted between people is verbal. The majority of the information imparted between people is physical. Either the face and the way that our eyes and, jaw and all that stuff is, and body, the way you stand, the way you hold your hands, the way you gesticulate. All of these things are communication cues. And just like not having people, seeing them like this for more than the last 2 years, we have to relearn. And I think we need to sort of have social graces and go back to propriety and understanding that there's sometimes the right way to do things, and sometimes the right way to do things is uncomfortable. But that shouldn't prevent us from being right about it, doing it right. If I have to face the challenge of dismissing someone from my table, then, I have to face that challenge. But it's the right thing to do, because I would like that if I was to be dismissed from a table, somebody would actually have the chutzpah to say, hey, Trevor, you know what? Things aren't working out. You're you've got some issues. Clearly, you're not in sync with the group. You're not in sync with the game. We think it would be better for the table if you weren't there. Okay, am I going to be disappointed? Sure, I'm going to be fucking disappointed. Am I going to be a little pissed? Probably. But it's better, because then at least I know where I stand. I at least know where everything is, rather than, oh yeah, we're not gaming for the next couple of weeks. Don't bother coming. And then next thing you know, you're just ghosted. And they're like, well, that's problem solved. And, and you're sitting here going, well, what the fuck happened? What, and then you start guessing and second guessing and supposing and situationalizing and all these various things, which could just be avoided if people would just think, hey, here's the situation. That's the reality of it. And I'm only asking of you what I would do myself. Right? It's like the weirdest thing right now is it's apparently impossible to have an opinion different than someone without being their enemy. And I don't fucking get that. I do not understand how, because we have a different opinion about something, politics, religion, world, situation, economics, whatever, that we can't still be friends. That's like saying that because I cheer for the Montreal Canadiens, I can never talk to anybody who's a Boston Bruins fan because they're fucking assholes and they're the enemy. Are you fucking kidding me? We're both hockey fans. Who the fuck cares? We have a common thing that we can at least have interesting conversations about. But no, we can't have challenge. We can't actually have to be, have conflict if, we don't want it. Well, that's fine. You don't have to have conflict, but then you're never going to have growth. Because only through conflict do you grow. Otherwise, you stagnate. And if you only surround yourself with people who have the exact same fucking opinion you do, all that's going to do is maintain an opinion that's not going to change. If you're mad at the fact that the KKK exists, that's because the KKK hang out with each other. And they don't intermingle because they're self-reflective. And the same thing for certain members of the social justice warriors or any of the really, really hardline liberals or really, really hardline conservatives or the really, really hardline Christians or the really, really hardline Jews or the whatever. You could name a billion of these things. If you're not willing to at least sit down and say, hey, maybe I'm wrong, how are you ever going to know if you're right? How are you ever going to know, oh, shit, I've been thinking about this wrong. Let me reevaluate. So don't go looking for conflict. Don't go creating conflict. But when conflict occurs, manage it. And manage it in such a way that everyone is bettered for it. And if that means that you're going to have to swallow some fucking pride or whatever, yeah, that's the way it works. The truth fucking sucks. But the truth will set us free. Just be aware that truth is sometimes situational. There is no perfectly absolute truth. I think everything modifies over time, but there's the truth in the moment and the truth in the now. Right? And if you've got a problem with somebody, face up to it. I've done that before where I had a person who erroneously thought I was a good friend. And I just said to him, I said, listen, we're acquaintances. We know each other. We talk. We have conversations that work, but I don't think I'm your friend because friend has a very specific meaning to me. And of course, at that point I was, vilified and ostracized. And then that's the cost of me being true to myself. Does it suck? Yeah. But in the long run, maybe it made me a better person. Maybe it made them a better person. Who knows? But in today's day and age, we need to get back to saying, hey, let's be comfortable that we're different. This is the very thing that the hardcore liberals are fighting for. We're all different. Yes, we're all different. But you need to be willing to accept the fact that different also includes opinions and beliefs and constructs and various things. And that just because I have an opinion that differs strongly from yours doesn't mean the two of us can't interact on a social level or on a pleasant level. Because there are many a time where I've held my tongue because people are saying things that are incredibly disparaging of the Catholic faith, to which I am a member. And I just sit there and I just bite my tongue. I don't scream at them or yell at them or vent at them, but I am willing to tell them at some point, oh, by the way, you've been disparaging my religion for the last 5 hours or whatever. And if they still do it, fine, they still do it. But that doesn't mean I just ignore them with that concept. It's like, oh, you're a Satanist, fine, whatever. All the power to you. Whatever. You have your beliefs, I have mine. The fact that we're diametrically opposed, whatever. You want a game? Yeah, let's go game. Right? You don't have to be completely simpatico with every fucking thing about every fucking person. Because again, that just creates uniformity, and uniformity makes stagnation. It's like you have to have that conflict. You have to have that, growth. You have to have that struggle. And it's not, again, you don't go out looking for a fight, but when a fight comes, you manage it. You say, hey, let's have a discussion about this. I think you've got the wrong opinion about whatever. Let's talk. Let's discuss. And try to take the emotion out of it, but just try to have a frank, honest discussion about your belief, my belief, their belief. If I better understand you, maybe I better understand the next person like you. Doesn't mean I have to agree with either one of you, but I better understand. And if I understand, I'm more capable of accepting and working with. Right? It's anyways, I can go on and on and on. I sometimes do anyways. So back to the point. Dungeons and Dragons. We are a bunch of people who are connected through a singular concept of a role play. And guess what? There are different opinions about role-playing games. There are still people who are playing first edition D&D. I personally play 3.x because I'm not a fan of either 4 or 5, but I do Dungeon Master, a 5th edition version for my daughter and her friends because that's the edition that they're going to grow up with, at least for now. I played 3rd edition Shadowrun because I don't like 4th or 5th or 6th. Why? Because I don't like technomancers and I don't like nanotechnology and I don't like wireless. They don't work for me in my Shadowrun world. Now, does that mean I'm right? No, it means it's what I like and it's what my friends and I play. And that's perfectly fine. Star Wars. What version of Star Wars do I want to play? I want to play Saga Edition because Saga Edition is an amazing version of both Star Wars and a role-playing game. I really like the various elements of that game. Now, how many versions of Star Wars have been since then? At least one. I think there's a second one coming around the corner. Right? So does that mean that I can't talk to somebody about 4th edition D&D? No. Am I going to like it? No, I'm probably still not going to like it because all the reasons I don't like it are pretty strong. And 4th edition doesn't exist anymore. So it's not like I have to worry about dealing with people on that level. But, so we have role-playing games that we play, but that doesn't mean we play the same versions or we have the same beliefs. There are people who are heavily into role-playing with dice, and there are people that are heavily role-playing with costumes. Is either one of them right or wrong? No, they're both playing the game to what makes them happy. Fine. Right? So there are opinions, no matter how close, you could be someone's twin and still have a different opinion. Just because you're genetically identical or near identical doesn't mean that you're absolutely the same. And just because you grew up in the same environment doesn't mean you're exactly the same. It's completely possible you have a different opinion. Right? You can't have everyone have the same opinion. Never going to happen. We are almost 8 billion unique people, never mind how many people have died, who were also all unique. And no matter how much we are alike, we are also very unalike. We are apples and oranges. As one philosopher once said, there are many things the same about an apple and orange as there are different about an apple and orange. And that's true for human beings. There is many things the same about humans as there are different. We need to embrace our sameness and our differences to grow as a species, to grow as a culture, to grow as society. We can't all just sit in our little bubble and say, yeah, as long as people agree with me, I'm fine. But the moment you don't agree with me, fuck you. It's not going to work. It's not going to do anything. It's going to lead to more conflict and war, as opposed to diatribe and discussion. So, have yourselves a good day. I know it's been quite a while since I posted the last episode, but been quiet. Wasn't recently. It's been very unquiet. But hey, enjoy the game, enjoy life, or your friends, enjoy your enemies, enjoy everyone. Recognize that we are here and we're only here for as long as we're here. So why are we fighting and not learning and loving? Totals.